Have you ever wondered why, even after eating what seems like a balanced diet, your muscles still feel weaker than they used to? You're not alone. Every single day, millions of people over 60 experience muscle loss, unexplained fatigue, and slower recovery, even after doing the simplest physical tasks. And here's the part no one tells you. In many cases, this has nothing to do with a lack of exercise. It has everything to do with what's on your plate. And no, we're not talking about fast food or junk food here. These muscle-draining foods are often sold as healthy. They're found in the natural aisle. Sometimes they're even recommended by nutritionists and articles that mean well, but miss the full picture. The truth is, after 60, your body doesn't process food the way it used to. What gave you energy in your 30s might now be silently draining your strength. That doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It just means you haven't been given the updated map for this stage of life. That changes today, because in this video, we're going to break it all down. The 7 common foods that are weakening your muscles quietly, day after day. And more importantly, what to eat instead to feel stronger, more stable, and more energized. Now, this isn't about guilt. It's not about dieting or restriction. It's about understanding the biology behind aging and making better choices, one small shift at a time. And here's something to keep in mind as we go. Depending on where you live, these foods might show up differently. Maybe it's a breakfast habit in the US, a popular dish in Asia, or a daily snack in Latin America. But regardless of the name, the impact on your muscles is the same: loss of strength, slower healing, and more inflammation. Let's fix that. Starting with the first surprising food on the list. Let's start with the first food, and it might surprise you: white bread, refined pasta, plain rice, breakfast cereals, croissants, cookies, toast. They've been part of our meals for years. They feel familiar, comforting. But here's the hidden truth. Refined grains have been stripped of almost all their nutrients, especially fiber, B vitamins, and magnesium. And why does that matter? Because your muscles need thiamine, magnesium, and complex carbs to function properly. Without them, the communication between your nerves and muscles slows down. Your muscle cells don't get the steady fuel they need. So, even if you're eating enough calories, you might feel more tired, more sluggish, and weaker over time. And it gets worse. These grains spike your blood sugar fast, and then crash it. And every crash creates inflammation. That inflammation doesn't just affect your joints, it quietly damages your muscles too. A study published in Nutrients in 2021 found that older adults who ate more refined carbs lost lean muscle mass more quickly, especially those who weren't physically active. So what can you do? It's simple. Switch white bread for 100% whole grain bread with visible seeds. Swap white rice for brown rice, quinoa, or barley. Replace standard pasta with lentil or chickpea pasta. These aren't extreme changes. They're smart swaps, and they feed your muscles with what they really need. Now let's talk about the second food, one that fools a lot of people because it wears a healthy label. But for your muscles, it's a trap. Flavored yogurts, low-fat milk, light dairy snacks. They sound like smart choices, right? But here's what really happens. When fat is removed from dairy, most of the fat-soluble vitamins, like A, D, and E, are harder to absorb. These nutrients are essential for muscle contraction, nerve communication, and energy metabolism. So when you eat low-fat yogurt or drink skim milk, your body might be missing the very tools it needs to keep your muscles working smoothly. And what's added instead of fat? Sugar. Most flavored yogurts have 6 to 14 grams of added sugar, sometimes even more than a dessert. That sugar spikes insulin, fuels inflammation, and interferes with muscle repair. And don't forget the artificial flavors and stabilizers. They do nothing to help your body. Some even harm your gut health, which is critical for nutrient absorption. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition and Aging found that seniors who consumed sweetened low-fat dairy had lower grip strength and slower walking speed than those who ate full-fat or fermented dairy. So what's the move? Choose plain, full-fat yogurt. Add your own berries, cinnamon, or nuts for flavor. Use kefir or Greek yogurt. Both support gut health and muscle recovery. And don't be afraid of healthy fats. After 60, they're not just allowed, they're necessary. You don't need artificial sweeteners, and you don't need zero-fat everything. You need food that works with your body. And that brings us to a food that hides in plain sight and quietly steals strength from your muscles. One bowl at a time. Let's move on to a food that shows up in almost every pantry. Something you've probably used without a second thought. Instant soups, flavor cubes, powdered broths, packaged noodles. They're quick, convenient, and they seem harmless. But under the surface, they're packed with sodium, the kind your body struggles to regulate, and loaded with preservatives that disrupt your mineral balance. And that balance? It matters more than most people realize. Your muscles rely on a delicate ratio of sodium and potassium to contract and relax properly. When that balance is thrown off, especially with too much processed sodium and too little potassium, muscles become stiff, twitchy, and prone to cramps. And it doesn't stop there. Many of these soups contain MSG, monosodium glutamate. For sensitive individuals, it may increase inflammation and irritate nerves and muscles. A 2020 study in the Clinical Journal of the American Society of Nephrology found that high sodium intake from processed foods was linked to a significantly higher risk of sarcopenia in adults over 60. So if you've been using those little cubes or powdered packets, even once a day, it adds up. What's the better option? Make your own broth, using garlic, onions, herbs, olive oil, and just a pinch of sea salt. Not only is it safer, it's richer, more flavorful, and healing for your gut, joints, and muscle tissues. If you're short on time, go for organic, low-sodium broths without artificial ingredients. Read the label. If you can't pronounce it, your muscles probably can't use it. Now let's move to a food that's even sneakier, because it's sold to you as a health product. But deep down, it's working against you. Artificial sweeteners. They show up in diet sodas, sugar-free snacks, protein powders, chewing gum, even some vitamins and wellness drinks. They promise sweetness without the calories. But here's the catch. Studies show that artificial sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose can disrupt your gut microbiome, the ecosystem of bacteria that helps you absorb nutrients, regulate inflammation, and rebuild muscle tissue. A 2022 study published in Frontiers in Nutrition found that these sweeteners reduced the diversity of gut bacteria, weakened digestion, and interfered with the absorption of protein, B vitamins, and magnesium, all essential for muscle health. Even worse, some sweeteners are linked to insulin resistance, a condition that slows muscle recovery and increases fat storage, especially in older adults. So, what should you do? Start retraining your taste buds. Use small amounts of raw honey, pure maple syrup, or mashed fruit to sweeten foods when needed. Or skip the sweetener altogether and focus on real flavor. Cinnamon, vanilla, lemon, herbs. At first, it might feel like a big shift, but your energy, your sleep, and your muscles will thank you. And remember, this isn't about being perfect, it's about being aware. Once you know what's really in these sugar-free snacks and diet drinks, you can make smarter choices, not out of fear, but out of respect for your body. Coming up next, a kitchen staple that's been marketed as heart-healthy for decades, but could be quietly inflaming your joints and draining your strength. Let's talk about something that hides behind the word SMART. Sugar-free, light, 0 calories, diabetic-friendly. You've seen those labels. Maybe you even look for them when choosing your yogurt, soda, gum, or protein bar. But here's a hard truth. Sugar-free doesn't always mean muscle-friendly. In fact, Many artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, and acesulfame-potassium can actually do more harm than sugar itself when it comes to muscle health after 60. Sounds strange, right? But stay with me, because the science behind it is both fascinating and a bit alarming. First, let's start with your gut. Your gut microbiome is basically the control center for how your body digests nutrients, like protein, magnesium, B vitamins, and amino acids, all of which are crucial for muscle strength and repair. But artificial sweeteners? They don't support your gut. They confuse it. A 2019 review in Frontiers in Nutrition found that sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose reduce the diversity of gut bacteria, especially the ones that help with digestion, inflammation control, and vitamin production. And when your gut can't absorb nutrients properly, your muscles can't build themselves up. Simple as that. Now here's the second problem: inflammation. Aging already brings some degree of low-grade chronic inflammation. That can come from arthritis, stress, or even just the slow shifts in hormones. And when you throw in artificial sweeteners every single day, in gum, in yogurt, in coffee creamers, in protein shakes, what you're really doing is adding invisible stress. Sweeteners trigger inflammatory responses in your gut lining, your liver, and even your nervous system. It's like lighting a tiny match over and over again. It doesn't burn you right away, but give it time, that little flame turns into a slow fire. And muscles don't grow in fire. They break down. A 2021 study in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences linked regular use of artificial sweeteners to increased oxidative stress, insulin resistance, and reduced muscle glucose uptake, which basically means slower recovery, lower energy, and muscle weakening over time. Now, let's make this real. Ever feel bloated or weirdly gassy after a sugar-free yogurt or drink? Ever feel drained, even when your diet seems clean? Are you trying to lose belly fat, but feel like you're shrinking in the wrong places? You're not imagining it. Some people spend years eating diet products, only to find themselves weaker, more inflamed, and more fatigued than ever. And no one connects the dots, because those products wear a health halo. But here's the good news. The moment you stop using these additives, your gut starts to recover almost immediately. A small 2022 trial in Nutrients showed that after just 10 days of removing artificial sweeteners, older adults experienced better gut bacteria diversity, improved insulin sensitivity, and even stronger grip strength. 10 days. Now, imagine what happens in 3 months. When your gut is calm, your nutrients are being absorbed properly, and your muscles are finally getting what they need. So, what can you use instead? Let's get practical. You can still enjoy sweetness. Just use smarter options. Try raw honey in small amounts. It brings enzymes, antioxidants, and trace minerals. Plus, it actually supports immune function. Or go for real maple syrup. It's lower in fructose and has minerals like zinc and manganese that your nerves and muscles love. How about dates or date paste? They're packed with fiber, magnesium, and potassium, and they're perfect for shakes, homemade snacks, or baking. And if you want something with 0 calories, use pure stevia or monk fruit extract. Just make sure it's the clean kind, not the kind that's blended with fillers or artificial additives. Oh, and here's something not many people know. Your taste buds renew themselves every 10 to 14 days. That means if you slowly dial down the sweetness in your food, your cravings change. And suddenly, those super sweet yogurts or protein bars, they start to taste fake. And your body, it starts asking for real food. Because when your gut feels safe, your muscles start to grow, your sleep deepens, your energy stabilizes. So this isn't about cutting out joy. It's about cutting out the chemicals that are blocking your strength. You've got the power, one swap at a time. Now let's move on to something most people don't even question: the oils in your kitchen. Soybean oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, canola. They're in salad dressings. They're in store-bought hummus. They're in your frozen meals, baked goods, and even your so-called healthy snacks. But here's the deal. These oils are ultra-refined, and they're everywhere. They've been marketed as heart-healthy alternatives for decades. But the truth? They might be quietly hurting your muscles more than you think. Let me explain. These oils are loaded with omega-6 fatty acids, and while omega-6 isn't inherently bad, it becomes a problem when it's out of balance with omega-3s. And guess what? Most people, especially after 60, aren't getting nearly enough omega-3s. That imbalance leads to chronic low-grade inflammation. And inflammation? It's like a slow fire burning through your muscles, joints, and nerves. A 2022 study in the Journal of Cachexia, Sarcopenia, and Muscle found that older adults with high inflammatory markers lost muscle mass at a 43% faster rate, even when they were eating enough protein. That's how powerful inflammation is. And refined oils? They're one of its favorite fuel sources. Now here's where it gets worse. When these oils are heated, which they almost always are, they oxidize. That means they produce toxic compounds that can damage your cells from the inside out, including the ones responsible for repairing muscle tissue. It's not just about fried food anymore. It's about what's cooked in these oils every single day. And it's not just restaurants, it's in your kitchen too. That bottle of corn oil on the counter? It may have been sabotaging your strength for years, quietly, invisibly, one spoon at a time. So, what can you do? Simple swaps. Cook with extra virgin olive oil. It's rich in antioxidants and monounsaturated fats that actually protect your muscles. Avocado oil? Fantastic. It has a high smoke point, stable when heated, and it's full of nutrients your joints and cells love. Even a bit of butter or ghee is better than highly refined vegetable oils. Why? Stable at high temperatures and come with fat-soluble vitamins like A and D, which support hormone balance and muscle integrity. Another trick? Start checking ingredient labels. Lists vegetable oil, canola, or hydrogenated oil in the top 5 ingredients. Maybe don't buy it. And for snacks, try roasted nuts, homemade popcorn with olive oil, fruit veggies instead of the processed stuff. These small decisions add up. You might not feel it overnight, but your muscles, they notice. Stiffness in the morning, more energy after meals, better digestion, improved workouts. It all comes back to this one thing: reducing inflammation through smarter fats. Strength isn't just built in the gym, it's built in the kitchen. And the next time you reach for a bottle of oil, you'll know exactly what your muscles really need. Let's move on. This next one might surprise you, because it's a food most people think is healthy, especially if you care about heart health, low-fat meals, or quick cooking. But here's the truth. It's hiding in more meals than you realize. And for your muscles, it's doing more harm than good. I'm talking about canned tomatoes and industrial tomato products. Let's break it down. Tomatoes themselves, they're great, full of vitamin C, antioxidants, and anti-inflammatory compounds. But once they're processed, especially in cans or plastic-lined packaging, they change. First, the added ingredients. Many canned tomato sauces, soups, or pasta bases come packed with sodium and sugar. Even the ones that say no added sugar, they might contain glucose-fructose syrup or other hidden sweeteners that spike your blood sugar fast. And you already know what blood sugar spikes do. They trigger inflammation. They wear down your nerves. They reduce muscle recovery. But there's something even more concerning: the packaging itself. Most canned tomato products are lined with BPA. That's short for bisphenol A. It's a chemical used to line metal cans to prevent corrosion. But in your body? It disrupts hormones, specifically estrogen and testosterone, 2 hormones that play a huge role in maintaining muscle mass as you age. According to research published in Environmental Health Perspectives, exposure to BPA is linked to inflammation, oxidative stress, and even endocrine disorders. For older adults, this combo is dangerous. Hormonal imbalance plus inflammation, faster muscle breakdown, slower recovery, and reduced strength. So what's the solution? It's simpler than you think. Swap canned tomatoes for fresh ones. If you're making a sauce, sauté chopped tomatoes with olive oil, garlic, onion, and herbs. It's fresh, it's flavorful, and it's free of hidden toxins. Or, if you need convenience, look for glass-jarred tomato sauces with no added sugar or salt. They're more stable, safer, and better for your muscle health. And just a quick reminder, this isn't about cutting out every single bad ingredient. It's about lowering your daily exposure to things that quietly sabotage your strength. You don't need to panic over a can of soup once a month, but when it becomes your routine, day after day, year after year, it adds up. Tiny decisions, tiny exposures, cumulative impact. That's how the body works. And now that you know this, you've got power. Power to change that pattern, without extremes, without confusion, and without guilt. And speaking of surprises, the next food might be the most unexpected one of all. It's sweet, juicy, and often seen as hydrating. But for your muscles, especially your legs, it might be a hidden risk. Let's take a look. The next food might be the most unexpected one of all. It's sweet, juicy, and often seen as hydrating. But for your muscles, especially your legs, it might be a hidden risk. Let's take a look. Breath. We're talking about watermelon. Now, hold on. Don't panic. Watermelon isn't bad. But when it's eaten in the wrong way, especially after 60, it can do more harm than most people realize. Here's why. Watermelon has one of the highest glycemic indexes of any fruit. That means it raises your blood sugar fast, really fast. And after 60, your body doesn't handle sugar like it used to. You become more insulin resistant, which means your cells have a harder time using sugar as fuel, and the rest ends up floating in your bloodstream, causing damage. Each time that happens, your blood vessels take a hit, especially the tiny ones in your legs, feet, and hands. These are the same vessels that feed your muscle fibers. So when they're under stress, muscle recovery slows down, fatigue shows up faster, and you might even notice strange twitching or cramps at night. Now, think about this for a second. Have you ever eaten a big bowl of watermelon as a snack? Or maybe on an empty stomach in the summer? That sugar rush hits hard. But because watermelon is low in fiber, fat, and protein, it digests in minutes and then crashes. You're left feeling tired, maybe hungry again, or a little shaky, especially in your legs. A 2023 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that older adults who ate high glycemic fruits like watermelon regularly had slower muscle protein synthesis, even when their diets had enough protein. In other words, your body has the building blocks for muscle, but it can't use them properly if your blood sugar keeps spiking and crashing. But wait, does that mean watermelon is off limits? Not at all. This is where context matters. You can still enjoy it, just not by itself and not in huge amounts. Here's how to do it right. Eat watermelon after a meal, not on an empty stomach. Pair it with fat or protein, like a handful of almonds, a slice of cheese, or a spoonful of Greek yogurt. Avoid eating it late at night, especially if you deal with leg cramps, restless sleep, or blood sugar drops. And stick to small portions. 1 or 2 slices is plenty. Here's a cool trick. In many tropical regions, people eat watermelon with a pinch of salt or chili powder. Why? Because salt slows the absorption of sugar, and spices like chili help digestion. It's an ancient habit that actually protects your muscles. Oh, and one more thing. Most of the beneficial compound in watermelon, citrulline, is found in the white rind, not the red flesh. So if you're looking for a true muscle benefit, Blend that white part with cucumber and lemon into a smoothie. It supports blood flow, oxygen delivery, and post-walk recovery. So, no, watermelon isn't the villain. But when it's eaten alone, in large amounts, or at the wrong time, it can quietly drain your strength, little by little. Now, let's wrap this up and tie everything together. You've just learned about 7 foods that most people over 60 eat without realizing the impact they're having on their strength. Some are hiding in plain sight. Some come with a healthy label. But all of them, if eaten in the wrong context, can quietly weaken your muscles, drain your energy, and slow down your recovery. But here's what matters most right now. This is not a list of forbidden foods. This is not about fear, and it's definitely not about guilt. This is about power. The power to understand how your body changes, the power to choose differently, and the power to protect the strength you've spent a lifetime building. Muscle loss doesn't happen overnight. But guess what? Muscle recovery doesn't either. It's not about big, dramatic changes. It's about small, smart decisions every day. Like swapping toast for real, whole-grain bread, choosing olive oil instead of corn oil, eating yogurt with fat and without sugar. Those little shifts, that's how strength comes back. Not through extremes, not through restriction, but through wisdom and consistency. Because you're not here to chase youth. You're here to protect your independence, to feel steady on your feet, to walk with confidence, to carry your own groceries, to keep living on your own terms. And you deserve that. Now, before we close, let me say this. If you've made it this far, it means you care. You care about your health, your energy, and your future. And that already puts you ahead of the curve. So here's what I want you to do next. If this video helped you, subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and send it to someone you love. Because the truth is, at this stage in life, it's not about chasing perfection. It's about showing up, being present, and staying kind to your body. Your strength didn't disappear. It just needs the right fuel. And when you give your muscles what they need, they show up for you every single time. So stay steady, stay curious, and most of all, stay strong. We'll see you in the next one.